Okay, so we were talking about the Spring Boot related concepts. Okay, and starter projects, Accreditator, dev tools, and we just seen a lot of theory over there. Okay, how these features are helping us to develop the projects, right? So what I'm gonna do now, like I will be creating one project. Okay, so which I already have it like ready, and we will see all the things like whatever the projects that we discussed, right? Like Spring Accreditator and how it is going to help us on these applications, right? To check it. Okay, so let me just pen 1 second. Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, earlier as I mentioned, right, first one is Spring Initializer. Okay, so Spring Initializer, we already seen it, how to just get a project from Spring Initializer, right? So this is one of the advantage which feature which was like provided by the Spring Boot. Okay, so yeah, so I have did the same thing, to download a project from Spring Initializer. Okay, so that project I already pulled it, into here, this boot demo, and I have several things, several classes which I have just added, to make sure that our the it covers all the demo, for the Spring Boot. Okay, yeah. So in this, the first one, I think we were talking about. Okay, so the first one is we were talking about what was that, like Spring, yeah, Spring Starter projects, right? So Spring Starter projects, actually we already checked while we were doing that Spring Initializer and all, right? So if you go and check your pom.xml, there are like several starter projects I have selected. One is Spring Boot Starter Parent. Okay, the other one is Spring Boot Starter Web, Spring Boot Starter Test. Okay, so these are all starter projects which we have it in this project. And how to select them, you can just, whenever you're creating the project using Spring Initializer. Okay, so that time, yeah, you can get use of this Spring Boot starter projects, and it will be added into your pom.xml as a dependency. Okay, so how this uh, there are like several classes we have discussed, when we are creating something, or when we are doing something, for uh, yeah, so when we are creating something like some small project or something. Okay, so we generally use the starter projects, and these starter projects are already having certain configuration which is going to help us for completing or building our application, right? So who will manage all these things, right? You have added those dependencies over here, but it has to get the objects, and all those things get created. Until unless we have certain objects, uh, we cannot use them, right? So how these things will be created, right? So Spring is going to take care of that. I'll show you one small example. Okay, how Spring is going to manage all the okay all the objects. Okay, what I'm doing, I'm just enabling one of the logging level framework for debug. Okay, and I will just start this application. Okay, put demo application. Yeah, if you see here, there is lot of debug content which was printed. Okay, okay. So earlier, whenever we are starting our application, it did not took this much, right? So if you see here, debug. So if you observe the log carefully, okay. So what it is doing, right? It is creating all the shared instances, singleton bean. See, everything everything it is creating, and it is auto wiring, because you have your dependencies and you have your starter projects, according which are aligned to that project. So Spring is responsible to take care of all of them. Okay, with creating all this, uh, objects, and auto wiring it them, to yeah, auto wiring it to them, so that it will be available for all our applications. Okay, so the thing which I was talking about, right? So there are, like, if you see here, there is a conditions evaluation report, right? So we have some positive matches. So that means, we are utilizing all these things, okay, in in our application. Okay, so what are those, right? I'll show you dispatcher servlet configuration, right? So dispatcher servlet. Okay, one second. Yeah, see, it created the dispatcher servlet object, and we have this dispatcher servlet ready enough for utilization, right? And you know yeah, so all the things which are required for the dispatch servlet, okay, it has been created. So that means, we can create, web pages, and we can work this application as a web application, because the dispatcher servlet, we learned about it. Okay, here. Okay, let me go back to the PPT, and I'll just show you, like, where we were talking about the dispatcher servlet. Yeah, so if you see here, we were talking about Spring Boot starter projects, and also, uh, where was that? Yeah, if you see, where is this? Yeah, so we were talking about the Spring Web MVC. That time, I think, we were talking about, the dispatches alert here. See, dispatches alert auto configuration. So this is our class, which is going to be helping us, you know, to actually, capture those requests which are coming from, client to the project, right? So so dispatchers are let, completely maintained, and it created and utilized by Spring. Okay, so Spring is responsible, Spring Boot is responsible to create, those references properly, and it will be auto wiring them. And additionally, not only the dispatch servlet, we have several other things, right? Embedded web server, factory, auto configuration. Okay, so embedded. Yeah, so if you see here, so there are, like, not only that one, we do have lot of other things actually. Embedded web server, factory, customizer, auto configuration. Uh, So this is going to be, related to the Tomcat, and yeah. Yeah, so this is related to embedded servlet container. Tomcat is the default. So this is the one which going to give you the embedded Tomcat to your project. Whenever you start it, the application will start default by Tomcat server. Okay, so and we actually saw that. Okay, like how the Tomcat is running, and how we are executing our application in the Spring Boot, right? Just a minute. Yeah, back. I'm sorry. Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about that embedded web server factory, and if you see here, right, mm, yeah, Tomcat started with the port, okay, 8080 HTTP. Okay, and if you really want to change the port number to from 8080 to something else, yeah, you can still change it. That it can be achieved through application.properties. So we have to mention that the port number over here, like with the property tomcat.port, something like that, or port should be fine. It will be changing that 8080 to the referred one, like whatever we need it. Okay, so the other one that we were discussing about in the default error page, right? Error MVC auto configuration and Jackson HTTP message converters. So for these things also, like Spring is going to be maintaining that error MVC. Yeah. So if you see here, error MVC auto configuration, so basic error. So this thing, like really, it's going to help us whenever we don't have a proper error pages, for your application. So this is the default error pages that it is going to create for you. Okay, so wherever something error happens or something, so it is going to display that white label error pages, as we saw earlier. Okay, so those things will be will be automatically maintained by the Spring Boot. Okay, to provide more kind of very good view for our application. Okay, and but this is very default, very basic error handling, and basic error page. If you still wanted to modernize that, like you can implement all those things, right, to a GUI part, and give more detailed information, what is the error, and yeah, so you have to do those things, but this is the uh, this is a default one which Spring provides. Okay, whenever any break happens, okay, it is going to display those white label error messages. Okay, the next one is JSON, right? Okay, so JSON is like, yeah, Jackson to object mapper builder. Yeah, this is the one which we are talking about. So Jackson auto configuration, so which is going to help us to convert the JSON to an object and object to JSON. Okay, vice versa, both will be handled by Spring Boot. Okay, this is the starter projects. Yeah, starter projects advantages. Okay, whenever we have whenever whenever we require to convert something from JSON to here, and back to object to JSON to object, and object to JSON. So we are going to utilize this inbuilt, like you don't require a separate configuration. You can directly use it. Okay, directly just mention this service is going to return a JSON response. That's it. So it is going to take care. Spring is going to take care of it. Okay, so we'll see all that in the code. Okay, but these are the various Spring Starter projects, and which is having like several classes in it. Okay, which is going to give us like that white label error messages, or something can convert from JSON to object to JSON, and some of them are really helping us to provide some default error pages, and some of them are ready for ready with server that which can run our application itself. Okay, so all these things which are related to Spring Boot starter projects. Okay, and yeah, so we just enable the debug one. Okay, and I'll just remove it, and then we'll continue with the next topic. Okay. Okay, so but before going to the application, okay, so what I'm gonna tell. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to tell, about this project. Okay, it is very simple and small project. Okay, so I have just created a couple of classes. One is course.java. So in the course.java, I have like ID, name, and author. Okay, and I have all the getters and setters method. Okay, there's a toString method which is going to print, all, which is going to return the complete course object with the values. Okay. So this is like, we do have a course controller. Okay. So what is this course controller, right? It is kind of web service, which REST call, which I have created. So all the REST controllers, sorry, all the, sorry, the REST services, right? We were going to write it in a controller class. Okay, so that is like, I have created a course controller which is actually annotated with @rest controller. Okay, so which was like annotation, okay, which is an annotation actually, to and to show that Spring can understand, like, this is the REST controller. uh, so this is one of the REST services that we are creating, and Spring is capable enough to check what are all the request mappings, and and it is going to take care of all other steps, like whatever we are talking, right? Like when we have something from object to JSON conversion, or JSON to object conversion. Yes, Spring will be able to understand with this annotation itself at the rest controller. That means user is going to write some web services calls. So and it requires something like conversion, okay, from JSON to object, and object to JSON. So it will be able to configure those things, and it will be available for for us, like to utilize it directly, right? So this at the REST controller can, we generally use it for the class level annotation, and internally, for each and every web service call, we are going to utilize a different type of annotations. Like one of it is request mapping, and the request mapping is going to tell you like where exactly the service is located. So we have some kind of path over here. Like if you check there, this is our path / courses. Okay, so whenever we have that local host ready, and when you hit that local host colon 8080, and then uh, yeah, localhost 8080, and then /courses. Yeah, then immediately it is going to display. Yeah, it is going to display all the things, whatever we have it under the courses. Okay, so here, whatever the response that we are giving, so it is going to display for it. Okay, so let's check it. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, and there is also one more thing, slash weather. Okay, so these are all like weather config. So I'm just utilizing return WS. So that means I'm just returning an object, right? So what is this WS object? So WS object is, which we have auto wide over here. That is WS weather configuration. Okay. So when you say auto wide, like, the data, so sorry, the object creation and, everything, the, you know, auto wiring will be taken care by Spring. Okay, so where is this object, right? Like, weather service config, and we declare it as configuration properties and also component. So at the rate component, this actually we were just telling Spring to handle everything. And, at the rate configuration properties, we were just utilizing weather hyphen service as a, prefix for all the variables that we were declaring it over here. So we are just telling that Spring, go and find these properties in property file, so that, you can just populate everything over here, right? So that is at the rate configuration properties. Okay. This annotation helps to map properties which are starting with the provider name, right? The weather hyphen service. So if I go back and check in the application.properties, if you see here, weather hyphen service URL, weather hyphen service UID, and weather hyphen service key, service ID, service.key, right? So all these things actually, which was part of this weather service config, URL, UID, and key. And so what Spring does, right? It is going to like load that property file, and it is going to add all these properties. Okay, URL, UID, key, and it is going to map it with your bean, right? The weather service config. Okay. And what we are trying to do, we were utilizing that weather config, okay, as an auto wide over here. Like, it is going to inject that object into this Spring after creating. And then, once it is injected, it will be available for us, to utilize this slash weather request mapping, right? So this is one another request mapping. So the data under this request mapping will be available, okay, with the weather related information, right? So let's just run this application and see how these two things are working fine, right? So how to run it? We are going to run that using boot demo, the default application. Okay, so run as Java application. So I'll show you, like, yeah. So if you see here, okay, I think I changed the logging level to normal, right? Okay, so yeah, but that's okay. We were having, like, it is starting the Tomcat service, and yeah, it just enabled everything on the 8080. Okay, so let me go and check on the local host, uh, 8080. Okay, so this is our courses. Okay, so if you clearly observe, right, there are, like, the format that you're seeing it here, it is JSON format, right? So did we ever tell that, to Spring, to convert these things into JSON, right? We did not, right? See, in the code, if I go into the course controller, okay, so I just given like what to do, right? Whenever we have some course request coming in, to the application, what exactly Spring has to do. That only we just told, right? So I just returning back the course related objects one by one. Okay. Like AWS, Python, Git, and iSeries, right? All these things. Okay. We were just returning it back to the browser. Okay. So and whenever we are calling the other request mapping, we are just returning something else. Okay. That is WS. Okay. Web service, weather service configuration object. But we never mentioned that it has to be converted into a JSON. Okay. So Spring does it for us. Okay. So you don't require specifically tell that Spring to do everything, like just convert this to JSON, just convert this to XML, something like that. No, not required. Okay. So if you really wanted to tell something, okay, you have several annotations that you can just mention over here, like to make sure that it is delivering in that way only, like the data, if you're expecting it should be an XML, or if you are expecting if it should be an JSON. Yeah, if you have any specific related, like changes, that we can still tell that to Spring to send the response back in that format only. Okay. So yeah, so let me show you the weather configs as well, right? So when you go back to the local host, okay, and just hit the local host with the weather configs. Okay, one second. Yeah, this is the page which I was talking about. Okay, so I did not configure anything, but it is still working. Okay, so it is giving that white label error page, and it is saying the application has no explicit mapping for /error. So you are seeing this as a fallback. So I don't have, my application doesn't have any kind of error pages related things. Okay, so what I've done, what exactly Spring has done. So there is an error condition happened. So it, instead of going checking with our slash uh, our error configuration, it actually found there is no error configuration, and it displayed the default error page which Spring can show. Okay, so that is like this one, white label error pages. Okay, so what was the issue with this? Okay, let's see. Okay, so the issue is the request mapping, right? It is /weather. So what I was trying to use /weather configs, right? So let me just remove the configs. Yeah. So now you see the URL, UID, and key over there, okay, on the screen, right? Where are these things are getting loaded? Okay. If you go back and check in the property file, okay. So in the property file, we have this default weather.com, weather and weather key, right? Okay. So yeah, one second. Yeah. So these things are getting loaded, okay, by Spring only. Okay, how it is loading? Because we made that weather service configuration as a component, and from there, yeah, weather service configures as a component, and also we do have a property scanner configuration annotation, so that the bean get populated with all the data from the properties file directly. Okay, so this is one of the thing, like to load something from the property file directly to your class. Okay, so we can use this, right? So now there is one thing. Okay, so if you are just writing this one, to make sure that it loads the weather service configuration from the property file. So I do have a different environments, right? Like dev, sit, pset, or tt, and then it goes to production and contingency, right? So all these environments we have to cover with everything, right? So how to handle this environment related properties, or environment related, the specific urls and everything, right? So there is a way that Spring Boot provides, so you don't require to worry about loading those property files, but yeah, so you have to do in such a way that to load those properties file on by Spring itself. So we have to take care of couple of things. The first one is like we have to define profiles. What is exactly the profile, right? If you wanted to push your if you wanted to execute the changes whatever you have done in the dev environment, so you have to create a separate property file for dev. Okay, and which requires some data in it and to load all those things, right? So we have to go with separate um, yeah, so we have to go with creating those separate property file, okay, inside the project, right? So what I've done, actually I already created an folder, sorry, the properties file, which is telling about application hyphen dev dot properties. Okay, so in this dev dot properties, actually I have changed the weather service configurations, because for the dev, okay, we do have a different urls. Okay, so that is the reason I have changed all the weather related information. Okay, changes. Okay, I have done it, right? So now how to load this property file, right? So if you have dev, sit, all those things, how to load this one, right? The easiest way is to load it using the application dot properties. Okay, so we have to be very careful when we are pushing the code to production. Okay, so we have to like give generic yeah, we have to definitely maintain those what do we call the yeah, sorry. So what I was trying to say, right, like we have to depending on your environment, production, dev, sit, okay, so we have to maintain a different type of urls and different type of configurations which will be configured, okay, when the Spring starts. So to how to load this property file, right, what kind of concept that Spring is providing. The first concept is like using profiles. Okay, so the profiles is going to help us, right, to find the exact level or exact property file where we wanted to utilize. Okay, so where we wanted to utilize the environment related data, right? So how this profiles can be called, right? So that will be taken care by Spring. You don't require to worry about it, but the structure that you are going to create for a property file is application hyphen dev dot properties, and this dev which should be more this dev should be equal like for our the profile that we are going to create it. Okay, so where we write the profile related data, so if you see application.properties, I have one thing, spring profiles.active, so which I'm just giving it as dev. Okay, so I wanted to show you before that, going to the application. Okay, so there is a change that we have done, right? So by default it is giving no active profile set. Okay, failing back to one default, the profile is default now. Okay, so earlier, now I changed it, right? So again my Tomcat got started. Okay, so if you see here, the following one profile is active, that is dev. So that means, it is going to load the dev related properties. How do you identify whether if it is dev, whether it is loaded the dev properties or a different one? Yeah, so we can do that using, you know, uh, the localhost weather. Okay, I'm just refreshing it. If you see here, default hyphen dev, weather hyphen dev, key hyphen dev, right? So that easy that you can, switch it over from one profile to other profile, and yeah, you can see the results very quickly, right? So so this is the concept of, like, profiling. And also you guys might be observed this, like, whenever I'm doing some changes directly on the application. Okay, so something here, DevTools advantage to auto restart. Okay, demo 2. Okay, I'm just saving this and just observe this panel. Okay, the console panel, and you will see that Tomcat is automatically restarting, without my, yeah. So I just saved it. Yeah, see, it auto restarted, and it is done, right? So if you see here, what it was telling, restarting due to one class path change. That means, I've just updated something, so it captured that and it stopped the Tomcat, and it destroyed all the complete application, right? And then, it just created the application again, with a new PID, right? So if you see here, there is one more thing that we can observe here, and the following one profile was active. So that means again the dev is active, and the change whatever I have done it here, right? Dev tools advantage of auto restart, demo 2, right? See, if you see here, it printed that. So that means, like, the changes are like very immediate, and it can be deployed into the Tomcat right away on the screen without taking much time. So you will have a lot of uh, you know like lot of benefits, using this Spring Boot DevTools, right? The DevTools is capable enough to do those things. Okay, so this is what, like, a basic example, okay, for all the topics that we discussed over here. And the other one is Spring Boot Accutator. Okay, so the Spring Boot Accutator, okay, so we were talking about it, like, in the application.properties file. Okay, so we have to include these things. Okay, or if you wanted to utilize everything whatever the Spring Boot Accutator provides, okay, you can still use it. You don't require to add any property over there. Okay, so you can just mention like star. Okay, include star or something like that. Okay, so it will enable everything that you display over there. Okay, so now what we are trying to do here, so that is health and metrics only. I just enabled it. Okay, so one second. Yeah, I'm just giving this, saving it. Okay, just a minute. Let me check. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, somehow it is not starting. Right. Good data. So let me just do one thing. Okay. Just a minute, let me check, if we have any default port number which is getting assigned to the Accreditator. Okay, I think we don't have the pom.xml dependency for Accreditator, right? So that could be the reason it is not getting started. Okay, yeah, just a minute. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, okay. Let me just add this, okay, to the project, whatever we are doing it. Pom.xml. Yeah, okay. Now let me restart the server, okay, and run as Java application. Okay, yeah. So if you see here, like, this is what I was just looking for. There is an endpoint links resolver class, okay? So which is going to, expose some kind of endpoints, for the Accreditator. Okay. So the first one that you see it here, like, this line exposing two endpoints beneath base slash Accreditator. Okay. So now let's go back and just click at, okay. Yeah, see, we have this local host, aggregator, self, and health related path, and metrics related name, whatever we can have. So you can just copy paste this metrics, and you can just utilize that metrics, in a separate page. Then you'll be able to see all the application related things. Okay, so if you wanted to just check how many HTTP server requests was came in, to the application, yeah, either you can just click on this. Okay, sometimes this URLs are enabled, or else you can just copy paste over here. Yeah, so these are all the HTTP server requests. There are only two requests which were came in till now, and the average time of it and the maximum time of it, to respond back. And these are all, like, it did not updated, it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do it now, I'm just going to hit this uh, yeah, this one, the localhost courses and localhost weather config, everything. Okay, so okay, so it I just hit two times, and this is three, this is four, right? earlier what we are having it here two, right? Now just do a refresh, and yeah, see, there are 5 requests, and this is the total time to respond back, and this is like how much the maximum time of the response. And the other ones, like what are all the things that we can achieve using uh, you know using Accutator. Yeah, if you see the below, there are some available tags that we can still, yeah, so these are the things. Tag method, we were using get methods, and there are no errors, no exceptions till now. And these are the URLs that we used, okay, for to get the information, and for the value of 7 count. So most of the times we were using these URLs to increase the count, okay. And there were no issues found. That is completely till now it is status is 200, and the other one is the outcome is success, right? So all these things that you can find it in the Spring Accutator, okay. And there are a lot of other options that we can still explore, okay. So if you wanted to see the entire application health, okay, it will show an app, okay. And if you wanted to see something like application related beans and application related things, so depending on that you can just enable the Accutator related information, because yeah, so that will directly give you some details about printing, how to check those metrics and all, right? You can still utilize them, okay. So this is like very yeah, so this is like an a, a demo for Accutator, okay. So Accutator is going to help us to monitor the application, okay. And you don't require to worry about anything. This is completely maintained by Spring. Yeah, you just need to write a dependency for it. One is the dev tool dependency, and the other one, you just need to start that and utilize the 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 providings of an Accutator on your application, okay. So there are a lot of other things that it can provide, okay. So I'll show you one small thing, one second, just a minute, okay. uh, where is the property file, right? So I'm just disabling this, okay. Yeah, let the server start. Yeah, yeah, that's okay. DevTool started. Okay. So let me just, go back and hit the same service. Where is that? Yeah, here. No, this one. Okay, I think it is giving only the health part. Okay. So even it did not completely, given. So let me just enable one thing. Okay. This to star instead of health dot something, right? Okay, I'm just giving star. Okay, let me check whether this change is going to work or not. Okay, yeah, okay. So star means all, like these are the configurations of what we have it under, yeah, these are the configurations that we have it under an Accutator. So these are many URLs that you see it over here. This will help us, to identify or to monitor your application, very seamlessly. Okay, so I'm just taking a couple of them. Okay, so I'm just taking this one. Okay, the slash environment. Okay, so what it is going to do, right? Yeah, so if you see here, it is giving you the system related properties. Okay. Oh, okay, so this is something related to the properties file. Okay, and it is not only with your the application specific, but it is displaying for all the Spring related properties as well. Okay, yeah. So if we have any loggers, head map, thread dump, everything that you are going to get it over here. Okay, and here are some mappings. Okay, so let's see how this mappings is going to work, right? So yeah, so these are all the mappings that we were trying to see. Okay, so the first one, I think, it is, so if you see here, right, Accutator web endpoint. Okay, so it is actually converting the object to JSON and JSON to object, right? Because of these configurations only. Yeah. So this is going to help us, to see what kind of mappings that we have it. Okay. And yeah, let me go to the next one. Yeah, we have thread dumps, we have information. Okay, architecture info. So let's see what is the information that it is going to provide. Info. Okay, so info is kind of like, it is enabling us saying that, okay, you can just write you can just give some information about your service and everything, so that will be displayed over here in the info page. Okay, so it's okay. And there is a beans. Okay, so what are all the beans that it is getting utilized in your application? It is going to give you those information. Okay, so there are a lot of beans, as I told you, right? Spring is going to handle them. Most of the time you don't require to worry of anything that for the creating objects and all, right? So Spring is going to take care of those things. Okay, so as usual. Yeah, so uh so these are all the things that we were discussing about Spring Boot Accutator. Okay, so and Spring Boot related features, right? So all these things were helping us to build very good applications, to do to perform uh, to the business, right? So now what we are trying to do, we were after checking on these things. Okay, so yeah, I will discuss about this one slide. Okay, so what exactly the dis differences between these two. Okay, so we'll just go with the next topic for learning JPA and Hibernate approach. Okay, so how we are going to check, right? There is one more project that we are going to check it. Okay, so we are going to work on creating some DBA related project. Okay, and in that the first step would be like very similar, like we don't require any specific third party related details, like we are going to utilize the JDBC first, and in that example, and how the JDBC Spring JDBC is to play uh, you know in the application. And once it is done, we are going to learn about the JPA and Hibernate for the same queries, for the same thing, how much improvement that we can see using JPA and Hibernate. Okay, that is the second one. And the third one is like very simple ones. Okay, how you can handle with a very less code to connect with the DB and to perform something directly over there, right? So these things we are going to discuss in the Spring JDBC and JPA related concepts. Okay, so that as we like yeah, we don't have enough time, to start this one. Okay, so tomorrow I'm gonna start it, like, the JPN Hibernate approach, and we'll finish it, tomorrow itself. I think, the JDBC first, and the Spring JDBC next, and the JPA and the last. Okay, so yeah, we will start this one tomorrow. Okay, so we'll discuss it, and we will find out which is the better approach, to go with whenever we have some projects. Okay, yeah, that's all for today. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you don't have anything, yeah, feel free to log off.
Thank you, Harish.
Thanks, Suja.